Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm meadsyre69 and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at the E75, a tier 9 German heavy, which in my opinion is probably the best. It's probably the strongest tier 9 heavy tech tree wise in the game. I love this tank. I've always loved this tank. In fact, I probably like this tank a little bit more than the E100. And it's a great line to play. I mean, you've got the Tiger 1 that's been buffed, you've got the Tiger 2 that's been buffed, and then you've got this, and then you've got the E100. So it's probably one of the best lines to grind at the moment, going back from sort of the lower tiers. All the tanks are pretty good. So we're going to have a look at just the tank in general. If you can see my equipment, that is what I run on the equipment, pretty much all the left side. Induced armor, I run the calibrated shells. I don't the rammer, sorry, I don't run the calibrated shells. I think the pen's absolutely fine as it is. On your APCR you can have 311. If it was heat, it might be worth running the calibrated shells, but it's not. So I run the rammer just to get the DPM up a little bit. So we're going to have actually a look at the armor profile on this tank, because it's actually a pretty solid tank when it comes to armor. Doesn't really, not much red. The bottom plate is quite weak when you are showing the bottom plate. I mean, 130 millimeters, but effective, I mean, if you're sort of looking down, and the effective is sort of 371. The top plate 257, but again, if you can start angling, 303 there, 280, and again, if you can go hold down, your upper plate becomes sort of 381. Yes, your bottom plate becomes weak, but if you can get on the ridge lines, then the upper plate becomes very tough to pen. You do have that hatch on top, 174 millimeters. That is a weak point, but you do have the spaced armor on the gun there, and you have the either side of the gun. It is quite difficult to pen, and I mean, you can pen it if you load the gold. I mean, side scraping again, if you look at that, it's 120 millimeters, but if you can side scrape this thing, then you can get like 400, nearly 500 effective armor on those. But you'd start turning to the side, and that's where it becomes weak. The turret's still pretty strong, even 179 millimeters there, 170, 160. So it's an all-round good tank. It's an all-round solid tank with a nice gun. The speed's not too bad, and the armor's pretty good as well. So we're going to jump straight into a couple of battles that we had, one with me and one with someone else sent in as a replay. So this first battle is myself, and I do have to apologise for that sound in looking at the armor profile. That was my bad, and I just didn't want to record it all again. So I do apologise for that sound. So this is me on Hellas. The one thing I do love about this tank, and not just this tank, there is quite a few tier 9s to be honest, and when you are bottom tier, it doesn't tend to matter too much, because you can still hold your own in tier 10. You can still get bounces from those tier 10s, and you can still pen a lot of the tier 10s. Of course, it is a lot better when you're top tier against those the tier 8s, but honestly, a tank like this, it doesn't really matter if you are bottom tier or if you are top tier. You can still hold your own against tier 10. So we are up against tier 10. Now, there is only 2 tier 9s in this game, myself and one other, and we're gonna get lucky towards the end, but we're gonna be the best. We're gonna be the best player on this team, and we're gonna carry. We are gonna carry. So we're pushing towards the right side. I can see my Jaeger pushing. We've got another tank there to the right pushing, and we can see that the enemy have cap base C, and there is a couple of teammates, a couple of the red tanks by the left area. So I really wanted to rush these guys. The E100 is low hit points. The grill I've got down, he is low hit points, and there goes that E100. So now we can play a little bit more aggressive. We can push. I don't really want to get this chieftain. I have seen he has shot, so I did go for the grill because I knew the chieftain was on a reload. And we're going to back up. We're going to let our tier 10s take some damage. They have more hit points than me. Well, actually, the Jaeger doesn't. But we're going to let the chieftain focus my tier 10s. Of course, if there's 2 tier 10s sitting next to a tier 9, he's probably going to go for the tier 10 because they're the most dangerous targets. So I don't want to be front line in front of them. I really wanted to sort of be behind them and let them take the shots. But already now it is a 6 versus 4. We're up to 2.6k damage, nothing special. I mean, we've taken a shot there from the Foch, but now I can spot the mediums that are flanking around. The medium, which is the Leopard, and the light tank, which is flanking around. So I really need to be careful of him. And you can just see German accuracy there. Lovely shot on that Foch. And I can now see that the Vickers is rushing and the Leopard is rushing. So I'm just going to turn around. I'm thinking that I could probably die. If they both rush me here, I could probably die. But as long as I can hold them off for my team and the Jaegeru, as long as he can get a shot off, but unfortunately he wasn't able to. But my aim now is, I mean, I knew I was going to die. I'm thinking, right, I'm going to die, but let me just hold these guys off as long as I possibly can. I've got hit points, I've got armor, and I can actually take hopefully one of these guys out at least. So we've took the Vickers now down to a one-shot. We letting him pass because, I mean, there's a Leopard in front of us. There's no point turning around. And there is a tank of mine behind who does take out the Leopard. So the Leopard PTA, sorry. So I'm just going to deal with this Leopard 1 now. The Vickers is very low hit points, and I'm thinking, you know what, as long as I can do as much damage as I possibly can to this Leopard before he can take me out. I can take 2 more shots, which means I can probably shoot him once more if I'm lucky. He does manage to get around me, which I'm thinking, right, okay, that's game over. But look at my angles. I mean, I'm trying to angle the best I can to try and get the bounces. You don't want to over angle, but in the end, didn't need to. We didn't want to shoot, and I do manage to take him out for my 2nd kill. So we did a pretty good job. 5,300 damage. We make some credits as well. 1,570 base XP, and somehow I managed to stay alive, and we do get the ace. So not a bad battle. Nice carry there from a tier 9 tank in a tier 10 game. Next up, we're going to watch the tank when it is top tier, and we're going to watch Black Tiger, and he is on Faust. It's in counter mode, and his team have gone towards the left side, which straight away I was thinking, okay, maybe the right side would have been best, considering there's 3 mediums on his team and 2 on the enemy team. Maybe the right side would have been best, but seeing now that the Predator, the Super Persian there, is pushing towards the left, I'm now thinking, okay, there is a heavy around to the right. The mediums are going to get rushed, and the 2 mediums that are there are going to get rushed, and they're going to get completely destroyed, considering there is quite a few tanks now there. So that gives Black Tiger the ability to start pushing forward as fast as he can. He needs to get there quickly because his mediums are going to get absolutely wrecked. So he needs to get there, and he needs to try and get some tanks that are spotting. And first up is the VK100. So he's going to start pushing a little bit more aggressively. There is another TD. Both TDs are now actually spotted up there. So he's going to use the armor, and you can do that in the E75 when you are top tier. You can play a lot more aggressive than you normally do in tier 10, because you will get, especially if there's some medium tanks, because you will get the bounces. It's very hard for anyone to be able to pen you with normal normal ammunition. Normally they do have to, especially if they are a tier below, they do have to switch to premium ammo to pen you. Maybe if they've got clear shots on your bottom plate, they may be able to use AP, but these light tanks and these medium tanks are going to struggle to pen you. So if they do switch to Pramo, at least they're doing less damage. Their DPM's a bit less, but already his mediums are disappearing, and it's a 4 versus 7. So 1,800 damage he's on at the moment. He hasn't taken any shots yet. He hasn't blocked any shots yet. There's the first shot taken from that Object 704, and that's the biggest weak point I think for this tank, and is that hatch. It's really, really small, but if you don't move, if you're just standing in a position not moving, and giving the enemy time to aim at that hatch, then they're going to pen it with AP all day long. Even medium tanks will pen it. Anyone will pen that hatch. As I've said, it's not a big hatch, so make it hard for the enemy to be able to hit that hatch. So many times where I've seen people try and go hull down, and they're just sat in the position thinking, you can't hit my hull. Well, because you're not moving, I'm able to pen your hatch. So if you are hull down, like, just move backwards, forwards, side to side, move your turret, make it difficult for them to be able to aim at that hatch, and you will get bounces. You will get bounces. And as I've said, your armor does the job for you. You don't even need to do much. As long as you're in sort of right positions, angled correctly, you will get bounces. And that is exactly what Black Tiger has started to do. He's blocked 850 damage so far. He's on 2.8k damage. And as I've said, with that hatch, he needs to move out the way. He gets rid of the IS-3 defender. And that is, as I've said, as I keep saying, that's the worst thing about this tank. If you... That Object 704 there, he couldn't have that shot on the Object 704, but if he would have stayed where he was, the Object 704 would have been able to get that hatch off. So that's what you need to be careful with. It's quite a tall tank, and just because you can't get shots off on them doesn't mean they can't get shots off on you. But he has now brought the Object 704 down to a one shot, and if you can just keep chasing him, the Object 704 is a great tank. It's a really quick tank for a turretless TD, so he is finding it difficult to be able to chase him down. But he is now alone against 4 tanks. He's on 3.4k damage, so he's already done a really good job, but he's still got a lot of work to do. He needs to take this guy out. He does take that guy out for his second kill, and he doesn't get shot in return, so he saves his hit points. So in all, that turned out a good trade. He's only been shot from that Object 704 once, but there's still a K91 there, which in my opinion is the best tier 9 heavy at the moment, definitely premium wise, because it got buffed. It has the buff with 350 alpha instead of 310, and it's really made it a very strong tank, the K91. So if that ever comes back into store, then I'd definitely recommend buying the K91, because it is a nice tank. And now he has the issue where he's got the K91 to his left, and he's got the Jag Tiger, which is one of the highest DPM tanks in the game. Actually, it was the highest DPM tanks for a very long time, but now it just sits in second place after the SU-12254. So he needs to either get close to him, or he needs to get around him. Luckily for him, the Jag Tiger hasn't got a turret, so if he can just get behind him, it doesn't matter what tank you're in, you're still going to be able to circle this guy. And as you can see, he's circle of death in a Jag Tiger in an E75, and he is going to take him out. So he's now bringing it down to a 1 versus 2, but the K91 can actually clear this E75. If he's got 3 shells remaining and he pens all 3 shells, he is able to easily take him out. Angles were bit off there, made it easy for him to be able to pen the side, and you can see someone is capping, the medium is capping. For some reason he got off the cap, and if I would prefer it now if that medium would stay on the cap, because at least he knows where this medium tank is. I mean, the medium tank isn't the best of players, at all, so as long as he sits on the cap, then at least he knows where the medium tank is. But I don't know what that medium tank, he keeps getting off the cap, like I don't know what he's doing. Have not got a clue. But he's now bring the K91 down to a 1 shot. He's on 6.8k damage, and I think the K91 is reloading, so he can actually now take a shot from the K91, but luckily for him he does block, so that's 2,300 block damage. And finally, here comes the Pantera, so he can play a little bit more aggressive now, because the Pantera hasn't got the best pens. It's a medium tank, it's an auto reloader, so if he shoots all 3 shells now, he bounced all 3 shells, so he should easily be able to get close to this guy. If he can face hug the guy, ram him like he does there, then he should hopefully be able to take him out with just 35 seconds left on the clock. Well played. 3,035 block damage. So he blocked, he done his job, the armor done its job, and he ends on 7,800 damage. Well played. So that is the E75, guys. In my opinion, the best heavy tech tree tank in tier 9. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm Meadsy, and I'll catch you all soon. Bye bye. With